Hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining us on the EPIC Podcast, the podcast where anybody can inspire everybody. This week, with yours truly, Edric Poon, we have in company with us the founder of Zeppelin and Company, a nice, beautiful audio cafe that's situated in the heart of Sim Lim. And the founder, Miss Kristy Song, will be joining us this week. So stay tuned and please remember to click like, subscribe, or comment below.
Yeah, actually, it's quite strange that you mentioned that because, well, the thing is, like, I never started out to be an entrepreneur or anything like that. So, I really saw it as like just a fun project. And since I was looking for another job, and I knew that I would hate working in a office of any sort, and then I left flying, and then that was like a amazing time in my life. But I was thinking, okay, so what am I gonna do like right now to beat that? Because in life you kind of like progress, right? You don't want to regress. So okay, what can be better than flying? And that was pretty amazing. So I was thinking like, okay, maybe I'll just do something. I'll just help out my dad. So I know, remember we talked about it, and then you were saying like, my dad and I, like, how did it come into that? So I kind of got really, I came into the industry sort of like unknowingly because I just came to help out with social media. And that was really how it started. But then I realized that, oh my gosh, there's like so many things about running a business. And like my memory from of my dad's business when I was growing up, and then when I left for that many number of years flying around and having no clue about what he's doing with his work, then coming back to it, it was like a completely different thing because internet, like internet sales and online and just like all these technology has kind of taken the old style retail out completely. So, and then travel opened up. So like it's no longer about Singapore, it's about Singapore and the rest of the world. So it's put us on a level playing field, and if you're not online, you're nothing. So it's kind of something like that. Yeah, then I kind of like really like just kind of had a lot more ideas about change and what I could do, but I couldn't do it because it wasn't my company. It was like my dad's company. So yeah, and then I just hated it because I didn't get the freedom to do a lot of things, and there were a lot of kind of, I don't know how you say it. It's like you have to navigate a lot of things that you didn't place there in the first place. So it was like walking around the consequences of something else wasn't by my choice. So it's like, like there are things that I didn't like, but I didn't put them there. So it was just there, and I had to deal with it. So I didn't like that, and then I hated it. I was just like, okay, I can't do this, I can't do that. I can change this, but I'm not able to change it because of too many reasons. And then I just like one day I just told him like, okay, if I have to do it, I have to do it my own way. It was actually pretty random how Zeppelin happened. Like the idea of audio cafe is not at all new. It's been talked about. I think it's very natural. So when like customers come in for an audio product and they have been on their feet for a while, they was like, okay, you know what, I have to go off and I need to think about this. I need to go off and get a drink. I need to go off and get a drink. So that was really annoying because like it's like, okay, if we had a drink here, then you wouldn't be going for a drink, right? And also it was not nice. So one, it wasn't great for sales. Two, it was just not nice. And three, I think I would like to do that. I would like to sit down and not have the pressure of a salesperson looking at me like, when on earth are you going to pay for this? Or are you just trying, or on all that judgment. So I really didn't like it. And I thought like, I wouldn't like that. So what would I like? And yeah, that's pretty much how kind of led to the idea of an audio cafe possibly materializing. But then I still didn't want to run a business because I knew it was going to be hard work. But then I don't know why, like one day I just had like that idea of like a visual of the store. Like I could see it. Then I was like, okay. Then one day he was just driving and I told him, I was like, oh, Dad, I think I'm going to start my own business. And he was like, what? I mean, thankfully we didn't get into any accident at that point, because he was pretty shocked and he looked at me instead of looking at the road, which was kind of dangerous. So do not break any news to veteran business people if your dad is like
Right.
someone like mine. Yeah. So that was quite amazing. So
Okay.
the idea just kind of came, and then like I spoke with one of another entrepreneur actually. I went to some female entrepreneur event and I got invited, and then but I was just in the audience, and there was a speaker on that day, and then many people asked her like, how did you decide to do it? And strangely, as I connected with more entrepreneurs, we realized like actually the starting point is pretty similar, that it's not so much that you want to start, but the ideas are all there and you cannot not start because you keep thinking about it. Yeah, and it's already all there, and if it doesn't come out in form of like a materialized business, you won't be able to sleep because you'll just be thinking about it. Like, I know I can do this, so why am I not doing it? Yeah.
So from what you're saying, it sounds more like you went through an obsession to some extent. It's like you woke up one morning, you just went, I could see it, and it just became
Yeah,
an
I just
obsession and you
couldn't
just drove toward it.
understand. Exactly. So I couldn't understand why so many customers were saying there should be an audio cafe. I also think that there are so many people ahead of us. Like audio is not a new industry. I mean, playback kind of started really early, right? And my dad went through a huge profitable era of playback, which was like Walkmans and Discmans and iPods and all of that. And I grew up in those warehouses where I saw like stacks and stacks of all these, and I knew how fast they sold. But it's not new. So I just couldn't understand why nobody did it. So it was baffling. I was like, wow, if I did it now or if I did it next year, I'll still be the first. Like, why is no one doing it? Yeah. But of course, like, so I just went like, okay, if I didn't have, at that time, it was more like a career crossroad. Like, if I didn't become this, then I would have to pursue my other interests and probably be somewhere very different from now. Probably be in like linguistics and translation or something like that.
Oh, so you would have gone into that line instead. So that also brings
Yeah,
me
I
to a
would have.
question. Like,
Yeah.
when I mean, you started off with flying, all that. I mean, okay,
Mhm.
many friends have not been able to really give me an answer. But what's this obsession about being a Singapore girl? I mean, you flew with SIA, right?
Yeah.
You were in SQ,
Yeah, I did. I was there for 7.5 years.
and then what was the obsession with flying? And then how did that turn into coming back and deciding one
Mm.
morning that, hey, I'm gonna help dad, and I'm also gonna
Mhm.
get my business up and running.
Okay, so the reason why I left was simple. The why I left was because my health was in like really bad state. So I don't think I'm constitutionally strong enough to kind of just fly for the rest of my life. And I don't know how some of my seniors do it for like something about like 20 over
20
years,
years, right? Yeah.
30 over years.
Mm.
I don't know how they do it, because I was falling sick a lot and I was really tired. And I mean, as a flight crew, you're like 20 plus year old, you shouldn't be feeling that tired, right? And it was just insane. Like the whole body was just sending signals that it was about to crash. So one led to another, and then I became like really just sick every other week. And we know that medical leave is not good for planes that are about to depart, right? Like, so they do need to the crew to be in good health so they can roster, they can schedule. And I just felt very tired. I couldn't recover from any of the flights. So leaving was kind of like the last straw. Like it was health or it was continue to fly. And there's just nothing. It was quite an easy decision. A delayed but easy decision, I would say. But starting SIA was like completely different. So interesting question. I spoke with a lot of crew, like why they joined and stuff like that. And I knew that actually there were a lot of stewardesses or stewards who have wanted this job a lot more than I did. So I didn't grow up thinking I want to be like a Singapore girl or anything. For one, I hate making up. Like I just don't like putting a lot of stuff on my face. So I was like, oh my God, you have to do that for work every day. That's insane.
The hair is
I
the
hate
worst part, I
pedicure.
think.
Yeah. So I actually chopped my hair off like during flying because I didn't want to deal with it. So there's one thing off my list, great. And I also hated manicure and pedicure.
Right.
So
And you
because
always had to
I
use that
didn't,
red.
and we have no choice on colors.
Mm,
It wasn't even like I could choose my favorite color and I could, um, really be nails of my choice, but it wasn't much for work.
mm.
I just hated sitting there for 2 hours doing my nails, and I can't use my phone. I can't use my hands, and I just hated it. I hate small talk, so that's three strikes, right? Like no way. Um, but then, I'm sure there are many people like me. Like growing up in Singapore, this country is too small, and you want to see outside. So I want to travel the world thing is true, but actually more importantly, it was because I really wanted to. There was one place that I wanted to go to, and SIA flew to that city,
And where was
and
that?
I couldn't think. It was to London, and actually, I couldn't think of any other jobs that I really wanted. And I saw like, oh, SIA flies to London, so I guess I'll give it a shot. And as long as they will continue to fly to London, I will stay with the company. So that was a starting point, really, of being a crew. I didn't know what kind of jobs. I didn't have crew friends. I didn't talk to anyone about what it would be to be a cabin crew. I
Mm.
was just like, okay, it flies to London, so let's see. So I thought I was gonna fly, do it for 2 years, save money, and go for my masters, but I didn't do that. I just stayed. Yeah.
Just get that money and go. Like, sort of. Or at least enjoy the process, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I just couldn't decide what I wanted to do for my masters as well.
Right.
Like it wasn't something that I wanted that much, so I didn't go for it. And I by then, when you start to make your own money, then you will realize how long it would take to earn back the money that you have paid for masters. So it wasn't
Right.
a very practical.
And in
Yeah.
the end, did you get your master's?
No, I didn't. So I flew for 7.5 years, and then I helped my dad. I got conned into helping my dad for like two years because I couldn't leave. Right, like it's really hard to leave a family business because you know that your family members are suffering or they do need the help, and it's very hard to say like, look, you're on your own. I'm gonna go.
Right.
And then I started this, and it's been 4 years ish.
Has it only been 4 years? It feels like it's been longer,
Yeah,
yeah?
I know. I have like two 3 years of my memory wiped out because all I was doing was this. I had like no social life. Rather, like I didn't want to. I just had so much going on in my mind, and I worked till like really late every day. So I was just working and working and working, and there was just so much things to be done. But I didn't feel tired. I mean, physically tired, but I enjoyed it, so it's okay.
Right. Isn't that a big difference? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
when you tell me about like years, disappearing and
Mhm.
all that, it's probably because of the issue of binge drinking. But that's a different story altogether. Blackouts and whatever. Anyway, the thing is that I notice very much among the entrepreneurs, which is really a beautiful thing, that you all get tired, never exhausted. I'm sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
tired but never exhausted, because there's this always there's this will to keep pushing on and all that. So
I
that being
think
said, it's been 4 years for you.
mm,
But have been the key milestones that actually you go, yeah, I could keep doing this, rather than going, I'm gonna chuck this, I'm done.
mm, so well, okay, so first thing is like I'm at this age where like my friends are having babies and I don't have baby, but they were saying like I'm exactly like them. This is a baby and it's just in a very different form, and I totally agree because every day is growing and every day is changing. Your material yesterday might not apply today. So I think that's the main reason for keeping entrepreneurs kind of going, because you just need to kind of like create and deal with new scenarios every day. Although there are some businesses where I would imagine would probably be a lot more stable. I don't know what those businesses are, but I think entrepreneurs have one thing in common, which you're always looking to progress. You're always looking for that small extra that you can throw in.
Mm.
Maybe it's a kind of innate competitiveness, but I told my dad that I've never been competitive. Like, I'm not those like, oh, okay, I win trophies and I gotta win this and I'm tournament champions. Or I'm not. I'm the other way. I don't compete at all. I'm like, I don't know. I don't understand the fight. I'm just gonna chill here. But that being said, I'm a sore loser. So
Okay.
not wanting to win or like not being interested in a top spot doesn't mean you're okay being second. So that was a thing where I told my dad, because he said I always lacked the competitiveness. And I said, that's true. But maybe I'm like passively competitive because I don't care about going for the top spot and removing all competition, but I just don't like being second.
Mm.
So I guess it's a very different mindset, but you get the same results probably.
Right.
Hopefully. I don't know. Yeah,
No, I
hopefully.
understand. I understand what you mean. I understand what you mean. To some extent, it's a matter of pride. You know, I want
Something
to.
like that.
I
Yeah.
don't need bragging rights, but I need to know that I'm not, bad either.
I don't suck at it either.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
that mindset.
And it's
Okay,
like,
okay, I get it.
okay, I don't need to be number one. But when you see another number one up there and you feel like you deserve that spot better, or I don't understand how that person got first. Like, I could do this, or then you start to think like, okay, maybe I should take it. Yeah.
Very interesting take
So
on
I
that.
had like
So,
a funny story was like the first time I drove in the States and I refused to drive because it was on the wrong side of the road, to
oh
me at
no.
least. I'm like, okay, that's on the wrong side of the road. So it was with a group of stewardesses, like we like to take those trips to factory outlets and stuff like that
Mm.
on a day off in LA. And I refused to drive. So I kind of claim that I don't drive very well. I'm just a bad driver. You shouldn't put your lives in my hands. And if there was someone more confident, that person could step up to drive, right? And kind of halfway through, I realized that the car was like steering, like just kind of being misaligned. And I said, your car, I think it's not aligned. It's not going straight. So you need to constantly, because it's not a rental car.
Oh.
I said you need to keep moving it back to be on the lane. Um, and that went on for a while. So I was like, oh, maybe I should have driven instead. But I didn't say anything because it's not. I need to maintain the story, right?
You need to.
But in
You
the
can't
end, because
offend
I didn't
them.
want to drive, the journey was like three hours. So I didn't want to drive, and there was already a driver assigned on the road back. So I was like, okay, I can get away with this. But we hit a roadkill. So at 70 miles per hour, which is pretty fast, and there was a roadkill.
That's way too fast. You're
So
completely
that
speeding at
translates to
70.
about 140
Yeah,
km.
yeah.
Is that okay? So we hit a roadkill, and then I was like, we're all screaming in the car because we're like, you have to go over it. You have to go. It's already dead. You have to go over it. You can't swerve at like 70 miles per hour.
Mm.
But she swerved, and everyone screamed, and I blanked because I was just like, that's just too dangerous. So I went like, why don't I take over driving for a while? And I was like, I'm not gonna put my life in. Yeah, I'd rather much be in control of this. So I guess in a very similar way, that kind of sums up like me and running a business.
Mm.
I know that I can do this, and I can do this ethically, and I can do this in a way where I would feel honest and proud, and it would still grow. So I was like, I'm gonna do
Right.
this. Yeah.
Understand. You can only be the master of your destiny if you're not resigned to your fate. So they say.
Mm, yes, exactly.
Then, so the thing is that in when you started out all of this business and all that, right? Looking
Uh-huh.
back at day one, you were mentioning that it's so tough and it's tiring. The funny thing is that did
Mm.
you start out in Sim Lim first, or did you actually start out in Funan first?
No, I started in Sim Lim.
Sim Lim directly, right? And this has been
Mm.
the only outlet, or
Mhm.
it didn't actually plans to go out there because right now Sim Lim is in a
Oh,
very funny situation, I think.
yeah. The en bloc and it's okay. So Sim Lim is a very strange mall. Um, It's by no means relevant or current. I mean, no, sorry, by no means current, but extremely relevant, because it's a mall where you get all the services. And we talk to a lot of people who can actually step into a cafe, and they come here for repairs and services. So I think that's number one. It's no longer buying, but it's more like services. So if you want to think about repairing your laptop or replacing a part, or like doing something with your phone, then you know that in this mall you can get everything. And I think that's great as a building. I would like this building to stay that way, because everyone needs it, right? And it's a pain to really look for a store in somewhere, or look online for a multitude of reviews to see where to repair a phone. So I think if I had a phone to repair, I'll just come right here. There are like 15 shops for me to compare, and I'm sure I can find one that I'll go with within an hour. And I think that's something. So I do like this mall a lot. But in terms of the exterior looks and the packaging of the mall, it's not Ion, right? It's very far from it. It's not hippie, and it's not luxury, it's not modern. It's just like really strange and eclectic, and it feels like Akihabara in Japan. It's like an electronics mall, and I think you will find very little female friends who say like, I really look forward to a day out in Sim Lim. That kind of, if you find me that person, please introduce me, because
I think you're gonna have to look in the mirror.
I need
That's
to
the only
witness it.
person.
I need to witness it. Like if there was another lady who said that, I love Sim Lim Square, like that's my favorite place. I just don't. And as much as I don't believe in labels, I do believe that it's not going to happen, because it's just the way the mall is. I mean, there's just nothing very much. There's no mix of interest and stuff like that. And in fact, when I was working here for three years, I couldn't even find a decent cup of coffee. Which is why also, like, you know, when we started opening this cafe, we realized like, hey, a lot of people are coming in for lattes and cappuccinos. Right? That's clearly me, but you know, it's different kind of coffee, and you do want different coffees on different days.
Right,
Also,
Robusta
like
and
a different.
Arabica. Yep, definitely very different.
Yeah. So it's just very different. Yeah,
Right.
and I'm.
Then when you started out, right, and this whole thing, I mean, now that you're going through it, you had so many phases that you had to go through. First is getting the location, you know. Of course, you've mentioned in previous interviews as well how you know, your dad was supporting you yet not supporting you at the same time regarding getting a place in Sim Lim. And
He likes
then,
how I'm running a business. He just don't like the way I'm running.
well, that's something I would also like to discuss with you afterwards. But in the meantime, right now, you were mentioning about the coffee. So which means that did you have to start training yourself in like the arts of being a barista, the kinds of coffee, and also then the investment comes in for the machines, right, and the interior design. How did the funding even come about? I mean, nobody has like, you know, 50 grand just to dump into it like that.
So actually, I was lucky. So in that sense, to be really honest with the question, I'm very lucky, as in like my startup investments were covered by my dad, because he did make the money for 30 years of running the business.
Right.
And my dad is an extremely thrifty man. So he doesn't splurge. We've never grown up very pampered or very. I mean, we had to earn all our dollars ourselves. He didn't really like splurge on gifts or anything. He doesn't even believe in birthdays. So I don't even get a birthday gift from my dad. So we grew up tough, I would say. And whatever I liked from his store, I had to pay for myself. So he never gave it to me free. And I think that has a lot more good than bad now that I'm an adult. Of course, as a kid, it was really bad, because like all your friends had gifts and I didn't get any. But I just didn't care that much. So yes, it was fully funded by my dad, and I think he saved up for something like that. So that was fully taken care of. And I think while the foundation was given to me, and I knew that before I said I wanted to start a business. I knew that if I wanted to start my funding for the basic, like a simple renovation, and Zepp isn't, we didn't spend a lot on renovation, actually. We kept it very simple. I didn't want it to be too posh or like too pretentious. So just want to keep it like raw
A bit more
and
industrial style,
casual.
Your
Yeah, it's just like really casual. Everyone feels at home here. You're not gonna feel like out of place, or you're not gonna feel like, oh no, I might not be able to afford the equipment or something like that. So I wanted to keep it something like where everyone would be quite okay walking in the middle, like the balance line. But I think sustainability was what I was more worried about. Like, you can have all the foundation in the world, but it's what my dad has taught me is that it's really quick to spend money, but it's gonna be really, it takes a longer time to make the money than to spend the money. So I guess that's what I kind of like grew up with.
He taught you the
Yeah.
value of money,
So
didn't he? From the start.
he did. He totally did. He always said like, oh, well, of course, if you want to spend money, there's many ways to spend it, and you can spend it really fast. But if you want to make that money, you need to be able to sustain it, and that's real strength.
Right.
So I kind of grew up to that message. And while I knew that it was fully funded, I also knew that the profits had to be on our own. Like, he's not going to pump in money when I'm losing, you know what I mean? So if he's not going to make it past the first year, he would say, yeah, you're probably better shutting it off. Like, he's not going to pretend to secretly, like those Hollywood movies of like pretending to buy 100 headphones just don't exist. No,
And he's
especially not from my dad.
I mean, that's
So
super
no fairy
straightforward.
tale.
Like legit, he kept it
Yeah,
super real.
yeah. There's
Yeah,
no fairy tale.
forget about
It's
the
like,
Kiyosaki, man. Just go look for Mr. Song, please. Whoever's listening out there. Forget about Rich Dad Poor Dad. Just go to Mr. Song and he'll give you all the advice you need.
yeah, I mean, it was a really good one, and I do appreciate it. And it's so true, like some months where we are like profitable, but the next month maybe there's just, you don't know what happened. You're running the business the same every day, and you can have bad days. Not really in our control.
Right. Especially during this period,
Yeah.
right? So what has it
It's
been
like
like
for no
on your
reason.
end?
On our end, we were actually really lucky. I do believe a lot of luck is required in running a business. And probably like a calculated, you can calculate, but you also have to have a lot of luck. So we were very lucky. We took this whole Zep concept was supposed to have a website when it started, which is in 2016. But our website only came up in 2020, like actually 2019. Our website came up in December 2019. And we did a very soft launch because our website we didn't even pay an external party to do it. We did our website on our own. And we have a very lean team, and we have to make coffee, sell audio, wash cups, do buying, talk to people. And it's a lot going on for a very small team. And we also do in-house photography, in-house copywriting. So that's really a lot of work. Our website came out in December 2019, one of the biggest milestones, because that was 3 years overdue. And in January, we kind of populated the website a little bit more. In February, the news of the COVID just kind of started trickling, right? It was getting more serious. And then March, we kind of felt the full impact. And in April, we went into the circuit breaker. So we were really lucky. We had a functioning website at that time. And so April was still kind of okay. But I think in May, for Singapore, we felt like a real sense of fear. I think that's when people were afraid that they were losing their jobs and pay cuts were happening. And that was the second month of the circuit breaker. And a lot of people were just lying low because the panic buying was gone. And they were just lying low and kind of waiting to get out of the circuit breaker, I think. So May was a terrible month for us. And one of the biggest milestones also about learning to be a boss is to announce a pay cut. And that's very bad news for, I think, any boss. And I always think like, I don't know, like I'm learning this thing and I'm learning how to run a business, but it's also about learning how to be a boss where I never wanted to be one. It's really hard to be a boss and to say like, sorry guys, I'm like cutting the pay because our revenue is not coming in. But thankfully in June and July, then we started to see a surge. In fact, when we just opened, like the first weekend of phase 2, it was just crowded. Yeah, everyone was out and everyone was buying, so I didn't see that coming. Yeah. But it was a good thing. So now things are pretty much back to normal. I would say 70% normal, maybe. Just in a
That's a
way we
positive.
live and in the way we operate. But for our business, it was very hard because we're like, our concept is based on testing it for yourself to allow you to test before you buy. But suddenly we became an online store and only an online store because we can't ask customers to come in and try stuff. And that was very difficult because we spent hours and hours online to describe sound. It's just horrible to describe sound. You should just come in and listen to it. Yeah.
It is. I mean, let's put it this way. You're using words to describe sound. It's the same way as, trying to
Yeah.
explain sound to somebody who is deaf, through
Yeah,
your
it's
writing.
actually really, really difficult because everyone understands relative words differently, like what is warm and what is cold and what's a strong base. It's like, and we always tell customers, like, if you say you eat spicy food, how do I know how
How
spicy is your
spicy?
spicy? It
Mm,
could be different from mine. So it was exactly that. And for a while, we kind of understood what it was like to be in a different country where you don't get to try and you have to depend on reviews to buy. And
right,
then we realized how lucky Singapore is to be able to try before you buy. Yeah.
right. And on your end, right? I mean,
Mm.
on this note,
Mm-hmm.
what's the next milestone for you? Knowing that now it's COVID situation, this year is going to
Mm-hmm.
be an absolute shitty year, but we're moving forward. What's the next milestone for you and Zeppelin?
Um, Next milestone. Um, I think it's okay. So what we're doing right now in the most immediate thing we're gonna try and achieve is more workshops and more educating. So I would say it's awareness. Um, Singapore is like a really small country, so an audio store in Tokyo makes way more profits than we do. They also have a lot more customers than we do, for varied reasons like culture, their own music, not being able to use your phone in a train. That helps a lot because it means everyone has to buy a earpiece at least. And appreciation for quality because it's like a mature culture. And I think that's where Singapore is going to right now. I think the part about buying everything really cheap and having like 50 of it is gone, and you kind of want to buy better and buy quality, but you need to trust. So I think the milestone here is to get more people to think of us. The biggest challenge is rejectionist, like being a rejectionist is quite common, I would say. Like generally if you approach any Singaporeans, like, hey, would you want to know about this? No, 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 no. Like
Mm,
that's the immediate. We are not really like, hey, sure, yeah, why not? I'm gonna be unafraid to say no, and I'm gonna be curious enough to listen. So I think those two elements are completely missing in our daily kind of interaction or talking to people about audio. Most people will say like, I'm not an audiophile. That's kind of like the worst thing I hear. Like, how do you know? Like, my question is, how do you know? Like, it's like saying, I hate eating crab, but I've never tried one. So, and I don't actually believe in it because I think it's just an excuse to make you go away. Yeah, but I think that it should experience it. I strongly, strongly believe that it's one of our five senses. If you want good food and if you want a good screen for your phone, and you want the place to smell nice, then of course you want sound to sound good. It's our five senses, and more people should. I want to try to get more people to experience it. So we really want to be able to go out and build content, like make people try it, go out and talk to people. There are so many people who don't know about us, and I just don't know when that milestone is going to happen. But if we have 1 out of 5 Singaporeans who know about us, that's a milestone. I think it's pretty far, but we're going to try to get there.
no, I think it's very
And
doable.
yeah,
I think it's very, very doable. And from what you're saying, it sounds like it's an issue of awareness, to not just about the
yeah,
market, the industry, and your shop, but also about just the consumer awareness of whether or not they truly want to treat their ears well or not.
yeah. And you'll be surprised. Like we have a lot of preconceptions to fight. We have preconceptions that um, it's just sound, but actually they haven't really heard good sound. So that's one. and the preconception of like a lot of ladies say these things are for men. That's also not true, because we have more and more, I mean, thanks to LaSalle being next door, actually, we have a lot more students who are coming in and we see like whether you're male or female, it doesn't affect, it's not a criteria to listening. You both have a pair of ears, and that's not a criteria at all. So, but the gadget, yes, the gadget and the tech is meant, probably men are more interested given the demographics of magazine subscriptions and buyers. I'm sure like that is scientifically proven. But I would also say that there are men who are not interested in the tech at all. They just like it's an argument of iPhone versus Android, isn't it? Or like a Mac and a Windows argument. And I believe that there is a large portion of people who really don't care what filament goes into this tube and or like what deck chip is it to. They just want to listen to it. They just want to make it sound nice. And they can recognize it. So I think that's a preconception that is a male only and is a male geek only or tech savvy. I think that all has to go before we reach the milestone.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you also get a lot of issues at this point in time? I mean, personally, I tend to encounter quite a number of people that would say it's more form over function. You know, it has to look nice. There has to be branding behind it, and then that's why they buy. You know, so do you face that issue when people walk into the shop?
Not really, actually. I think currently, because we're not that known yet, so the people who knew us for quality. But then, and I think that's also a lot of like there's definitely a split. It's almost like companies who make really good looking stuff ignore the quality, and there are people who make really good quality but they ignore the form. And I think that's like a multitude of reasons, like probably because of the life cycle of the products. We're not in the 80s or 70s or even before where you have 30 years to come up with a product. You just don't have that leisure anymore. So life cycle of a product is really short and you have to just go. You can't wait for 3 years because you'll be forgotten. You'll be invalid or irrelevant as a brand. So, but I think now customers are looking at that. You know, you want this, but you also want this. So form and functionality has to kind of come together right now. And I'm increasingly seeing that they want both, and they want it to be cheap as well. Like I want it all. Like this want it all is a good thing because it kind of pushes manufacturers to work harder. Quality is like really growing, but and I think all the more when that happens, then you need to really look at it yourself because everyone's assessment is so different. Yeah. So, and sometimes people come in looking for form, but they realize they can't live without the functionality after a while. So
very true. Very true.
Yeah.
So, I also would just like to find out a little bit more about your thoughts in running the business, you know. For example, what do you think a critical skill, right, for a business owner should be, you know, in your opinion?
Wow. What skill? Okay, skill. Of my mind, I think it's communication. That's really important. I think another good thing that actually my dad, I'm missing a lot today, I think. So a lot of, one good thing that he told me is that you're nothing without a team. Because he had many ideas, but sometimes he doesn't have the team to keep up with it or to follow it. So I think communication is really important that, you know, as long as you're living, you're dealing with human beings. And sure, you can go and choose to live in a job where you deal with pets, but you still deal with humans in the end, right? Because that's what we are, and there's no running away. So I think that in that sense, we really have to communicate and learn that. And I think it's unfortunately like it's just going to be a lifelong task to communicate every day because we all have different moods and different receptiveness every day. And I think as a boss or as a colleague or as a human being, you just need to be extremely perceptive in that communication, because with that then deadlines can be communicated or visions can be aligned. And I would say that's really difficult, especially for me. I find that very, very hard because a lot of things happen in the head and you need to translate it. And it's also like Zep as a place, we need to communicate it in a way where customers understand it. Maybe if they understood it in like 10 minutes of explanation when someone walks in, I would like to make it better. Like say, how can we make this person understand in 5 minutes? Or how can we tell a story where we can make this person understand in 3 seconds? So that's the progressiveness that I was like telling you about. We drive ourselves crazy, you know.
I understand. I
Yeah.
understand. There are two things here. One of them is I noticed that you're really speaking in a very linguistics communications theory method, right? Or at least a background
Really?
in that. Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh,
Basically,
okay.
the communication theory is very simple, right? You've got the sender and you've got the receiver. Essentially,
Yeah, that's true.
and any message that goes in between the sender and the receiver, right, is pretty
Yeah.
much a straight line.
Mhm.
For
Yeah,
them,
yeah.
for the sender to send 100% of the message and the receiver to receive 100% of the message. Anything in between is called
It's so
noise.
hard.
Yeah, it is. So
Yeah,
in order for you to get
it's really
100%,
difficult.
it becomes very, very difficult. And what you're trying to do is essentially making that line straight, but there's a lot of noise in between. So this is the challenge for
Yeah,
all communications.
I know. It's so hard, Edric.
Yeah. So, and the
That's
second thing I also
terrible.
realized is that it sounds to me like your father is pretty much your mentor in this whole thing,
Mm.
you know?
Um,
And
he gave me a lot of advice, not particularly pertaining to this, but I think it's very different. I mean, I realized like for me, and like when I compare to my peers, like my friends, it's very different to grow up in a business family. I think that's like everything that I have received since I was a kid was from a filter of a businessman. So, and my dad's he's a workaholic. He has no other interests except to work, and he really enjoys it. So I think my filter has always been different.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's one of the things also, let's dive into this. This is very interesting. Growing up in a business family, like what you mentioned,
Mm.
what are dialogues like when when you're a little girl and you ask, Daddy, can I buy this, or can you buy this for me? And does he just say there's no ROI in this? No. What is it
Yeah,
like?
pretty much. I think you nailed it. So I'll give you an example, like a concrete one. Let's say if we go to a restaurant, right? And we sat down and I said, oh man, I was just soaking in the vibes and I said, oh, this place is so nice. He would tell me this place won't make money. Like cold bucket of water. Like he
Wow.
originated ice bucket challenge. Every day is like that. He walks in the restaurant, I'm like, oh my god, Dad, the lighting is so beautiful. He's like, I wonder what kind of tracks they use and if it's LED or non-LED lights. And I'm just like, oh my god, seriously. He's like, he's done that all my life. And like when we travel, one day in Australia, I can't remember when, I was too young. And you see that's the thing, I'm like too young to remember, but already the lessons have started. Um, we walked into a kind of like a like a cafeteria or something, and we ordered a few things, but it was taking forever to come to a table. And I was very young, and in Singapore, you pretty much get fast service, right?
Hmm.
So I was like, why is it taking so long? He's like, oh, if you notice, there's only one person working today. And it means that the overheads are very high, the basic pay is really high, and that one person has to do everything from serving to receiving money to serving the table and cleaning up. That's why it's so long. I was like, okay, right. Like we're in Australia, but we are on a holiday, but the things don't change. Everything is about dissecting the business model everywhere we go. If it's a beautiful place, it's about renovations and how much do you think that veneer laminate costs, or yeah, every day.
But
And
that's
at a
pretty
restaurant, and
amazing.
a meal, yeah, or like if the menu has changed, in a restaurant that we used to go to, he'll say like, oh, looks like they're not doing so well. They're trying to cut and streamline ingredients. So yeah, so it's quite a different experience growing up under a dad like that. Mm.
Right. And then when you fast forward to when you're actually starting out this business, he, I'm sure that he must have like said so many things, but yet at the same time, a part of you also goes, there's truth to this, even though you have a lot of resistance.
Hmm.
Do you have anything like
Yeah.
that?
Okay, so the biggest thing that I kind of felt like actually when I was studying it, because the lessons have been peppered through my whole life, so he didn't really. And I've also worked with him. Like I've worked with him for two years, and we had enough fights and talks and discussions over the 2 years to kind of understand each other and how we work. Because before that we were father and daughter, right? But when we work together, suddenly he's the boss and I'm an employee, and I got to see the other side of him, and I think that's really different. So when we started, all I had in my mind was a surprisingly zen moment where I feel like, okay, if he said yes, he must have dissected my model without telling me, and he knew it wasn't a wash down the drain investment. And I think if he agreed that I should go ahead with this, it means there was a 50-50 chance, if I was being prudent, that this would succeed. Because he would otherwise tell me, forget about it, idea is so bad, please think of another one. He would not have let me go through with it, no matter how much he would have liked me to be an entrepreneur. But I think he assessed it already mentally, even if he doesn't say.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
So
true
just
business
with
acumen
that
right there.
understanding, yeah, just like with that understanding, I felt like, oh, well, I think maybe I could go ahead with this. And I think he approves. But he's not going to tell me that, you see. His job is to tell me that this is not good enough and that is not good enough. And I'm used to that, actually.
Right. And then what about there's also something that maybe a little bit more on the cynical side of things, growing
Uh-huh.
up in that business, and you've openly mentioned that your father had helped you
Yeah.
with the initial startup. Now, with a male
Mm.
dominated environment, right? And nosy
Mm-hmm.
neighbor, you want to just call it that. They're gonna go, I'm sure that there are people that go, he's just supporting his daughter, lah, this and that, this and that. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you deal with naysayers like that, and how does that make you feel?
I just put on headphones. I just ignore them, really. I mean, what can you do? There are always gonna be naysayers. I mean, it's the same, right? Like social media, some people don't like you and some people like you. You're never gonna please the world, but if you stay true to your lane, then at least people who like you know where to find you. But if you keep moving around, then even if we wanted to locate you, you have already changed. So like yeah, but that's probably like my personality. I just don't really like, I really think it's not okay to, and I think it's like applicable everywhere, right? Like you can't really pander all the time because you lose yourself.
Mm.
But of course, like we're not saying to reject, like be a good listener, but I don't think pandering is going to help anyone in anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Wallowing in it is not a good thing. That's for sure.
No, yeah. And I think it's like whatever, if they don't like us, then they can go buy from somewhere else. But if somebody who likes us, then yeah, sure, we'll be so happy to see you come back.
Right. And it's been 4 years
Yeah.
already. Do you ever feel that you're still within the shadow of your father to some extent in the business world?
No, I don't think so.
That's good. That's really
Yeah,
good.
I don't think so. I think my dad has allowed me a very free hand in running this, but we also signed the contract verbally to say that if I'm going to run a business, it has to be my way or I won't do it. So that was established from the beginning because I want the mistakes to be my own.
Mm.
And I feel like then it gives me a full chance of doing something different, right? And I think my dad and I, actually, we are quite different personalities. Yeah, we're not. My sister is more like him. I'm kind of quite different. Like, and I've always been like super rebel in. Yeah, it's hard to make me take advice from him. I kind of just make up my own mind. It's the eldest child thing. We do that. We make up
Mm.
the rules. People follow them.
And then
They're called siblings. Yeah.
so you mentioned earlier on about the mistakes that you had made along the way being your own,
Mm.
right? So may I know what the those key mistakes like that stick with you all the way and you go, I'm never gonna do that again.
Interesting. So actually, my brother just joined the company
Oh.
not long ago, and I was talking to him about it. And this is great, right? Like brother joining the company is fantastic. Now we can kind of just huddle and talk about my dad. Like I roped in one to my side, and we got one more to stand on my side. I think mistakes. I was telling my brother that actually I'm quite lucky, as in I worked with my dad's company, which is not mine, but not too different. But in the sense that it was very traditional, and it wasn't from my perspective. So when I was there and I avoided a lot of mistakes thanks to working in a different environment that was not mine. So basically, like all the things that I disliked, I had already avoided them when I designed this space. So that was one. So I don't have like huge mistakes, except maybe sometimes like you order like one product where you think it's gonna sell but you didn't actually sell, um, or like my part-timer hiring process isn't great, that kind of small mistakes. And I'm glad that in 4 years of operations my mistakes has been relatively small. We also grew very organically because it was funded, right? So we didn't have to take a lot of high risk projects to really just go out there. It was like all or nothing. I never had to take those kind of risks, which is good. Organically growing like that. But I was just saying, as of now, where I feel like the business is moving on to another milestone, which is like right now we are really going online and we are integrating the full accounting system and all of that, getting global reach. We are contemplating whether we should open our website to global orders or not. That's becoming kind of like a next step. And I'm sure that with the businesses that go up, and then if you read like business books where there are like people like Nike would who could have gone bankrupt but did not go bankrupt because of legals, or like brand books. We haven't made that sort of mistakes yet because we're so young as a company. But I'm sure with scale and then with time, then the stakes are a lot higher, and one move could completely ruin like all your profits, could wash out your it can come like a tsunami, right? Like you can wash out the profits for the whole year. But we haven't made that sort of investment, so we haven't had that kind of mistakes. So we're quite lucky in that sense. Yeah.
Right.
I would just probably choose a different contractor because like my floor isn't very well built, but I'm really just very thankful that those are small mistakes and I've learned to like avoid them as from my dad's business model. Like whatever I didn't like, I didn't put here. So
Right.
yeah.
And you mentioned things like books and all this, and I can see a
Mhm.
lot of interesting lessons and key
Mm.
values that you value very much. So what were those values to you, apart from the value of money and running a business? But what else maybe have you picked up from him? And are there any other perhaps resources that you've also picked up from that sticks true to you?
Mm, oh, too many. I think the interview time isn't long enough. And I'm really glad you're giving me this like airtime already. So um, I don't have anything except to say like I feel like a lot of people make changes because they're afraid that they're not changing. And I don't think that's relevant, right? I think you make the change because you have to, not because you don't know what else to do. And like recently, like the talk about Sim Lim Square and being in a strata mall, like why do I choose to be here instead of being somewhere else? I think that's exactly what I'm talking about. That why does it have to be in a new mall to succeed? It doesn't have to be, because the business is irrelevant. Whether you're not going to gain success just because you're in a location. You gain success because you did the right things for your own business. So it didn't matter to me, and I feel like a lot of malls in Singapore are being torn down just to look new again.
Mm.
And while talking to the strata title like owners and interviewers, I realized that there was actually a lot of nostalgia for this kind of buildings. And like if you asked people, they didn't really need the change. It was more like developers needed to refresh the land, or find another way to draw customers again by being new. But new is probably a very bad way of drawing crowd because it doesn't last for very long. Yeah. So I think
Interesting.
it's that try not to change that much, but rather like optimize whatever you have. And creativity is really made from that. So actually, Zep's DNA is like we had a whole brand book kind of like design, because I believed in branding. I actually didn't want an ID. I wanted a branding agent. So I worked with a really good one who really forced me to sit down and think, what is the brand DNA? And like, just like a fun fact, like the Zeppelin name was actually half and half. It was, I wanted a Z logo because it was like cool, just as the alphabet like Zorro. But I didn't want to call it Zorro Audio, which would be such a stupid name. I mean, I don't know if there's a Zorro Audio out there. If there is, I'm sorry. But I didn't like that. But I wanted a Z logo. And I thought it was actually because of the Zeppelin aircraft, right? And I was watching like some strange war documentary, and then also like
right?
Led Zeppelin was playing. So I was like, oh, Zeppelin is a good name, because the Zeppelin went up in flames, but it did symbolize like hope, and it lived, that whole image kind of lived long enough for Led Zeppelin to also like, adopt that Led Zeppelin name. So it was quite cool. And I was a cabin crew, so it was an aircraft. So I thought like, okay, sure, like, why not just call it Zepp? And the DNA is very post-war, because I feel like I wanted to spend as little dollars as possible. Because post-war period, like when they didn't have a lot of things, but they made full use of whatever they had. And that was when creativity was actually at the highest. In any kind of design books that I see, I was like, oh wow, the post-war period really kind of just, it just kind of got into me. Just thought like, so amazing. These people had nothing, but they made something out of nothing. That was amazing. Yeah.
So I see you're a big fan of resourcefulness then.
Yeah, of course. Like, spending money is easy, right? Like my dad told me. It's making something that's quite difficult. So yeah, that was also like definitely from him, a page of his book.
And something I'd like to ask also, all the entrepreneurs that have been on the show and professionals, right? Is there a certain routine, that you go through in terms of waking up in the morning, what time you start your day, keeping your mental and physical health in tip-top condition to keep going?
Well, yeah. So like actually first 3 years, it was like a full burnout. Yeah, because I worked till 3, 4 a.m. every day. I wasn't complaining because I'm pretty nocturnal actually. But it's just that like, I felt like if I started my day late and as the team grew, there will be more people who are depending on, like, waiting for my instructions, but they're really waiting for me to wake up. So I think that's responsibility right there. And then I did a whole overhaul. So I went on my third year. I went for a full month sabbatical, and I just thought like it's time to flip my nocturnalness into really just waking up in the morning. And actually, there's a lot of fear in doing that, because I do love the night, and I feel like all my ideas hit at 3:30 a.m. But if I sleep at 3:30 a.m. or like I'm sleeping, then maybe the ideas will stop coming. So I was really afraid of losing my magic hour just by becoming a morning person, but that's changed. So basically, I went on like a yoga thing that my friend signed me up for, and I didn't know I thought it was a retreat, but I didn't know it was actually a yoga teacher training. So I was already there, so I completed it, and then I think that was kind of like life changing. So I do like wake up, and then I try to go for a yoga and a coffee and breakfast, and then I come to work.
So
And
you
I
have
found that, I just have a lot more energy.
so you have this routine. You wake up in the morning now, you're doing yoga, 30-minute session?
An hour every day.
Wow.
Yeah, an hour every day. Except now I'm nursing an injury, but like I would used to do like 75 minutes actually, even 75 minutes a day before starting, because I get a lot more energy throughout the day, like no fatigue. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't like any other form of sports. So
right. Yeah. And I'm assuming that you're also on Instagram. So are you also starting to post all these like how-tos on social media?
No, strangely no. My Instagram page is pretty much just like photography. Yeah. like a sort of like a travel blog, travel memory moments. Yeah, I haven't posted anything because like I mean it's a new thing being an entrepreneur. I just you don't think of yourself as an entrepreneur. At least I haven't yet because I was saying like first year I'm just trying to figure this out in my head, and then second year I was learning to be a team member. I was learning to work with my team and trust, and as the team is like as the team's growing, then you learn to work with more different personalities. And now I have to start to think about being a boss because like when I did my first pay cut, I was like, okay, this really sucks because I have to be the one to say it. Yeah.
Right.
Then learning to be an entrepreneur is difficult. It's a full journey. It's very different. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
lastly, do you have any advice to share with anybody who is considering starting their own business?
This one is really difficult, right? It comes with responsibilities. I think I would say maybe like everyone has to definitely like prepare to fail. You can't be afraid. Like a lot of people are too worried. What if this don't work out? What if that? What if that? What if that doesn't work out? What if I don't? But the thing is, you don't know until you're there. So you have to really just take the leap. But I think one of the best advices is like you have to not take sustainability for granted. You really have to keep going, and you really have to keep at it. So don't be discouraged. So I think for an entrepreneur, biggest advice is to feed yourself, like feed yourself and feed your soul, feed your brain. Because if you run dry, there's no one else that can help you. Being an entrepreneur is quite a lonely task because you have to drive yourself and stay inspired and stay curious. The moment I feel like the moment you run out of it, people leave. It's like nobody wants to be attached to a person who is negative vibing every single day. You're just gonna drive everyone away. But you need to stay positive, but not naive, which is very hard. It's like a fine line between insanity and naivety or just being positive. I think that's the hardest thing. So you have to keep replenishing yourself and take care of yourself, and then finding that right balance is hard. Surround yourself with good people always.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
that. And
Thank you.
no, we're gonna normally we end off the
Mm.
podcast right with a rapid fire questionnaire.
Oh
So
dear. Okay.
yeah, it's just I've got 9 questions for you. Should be
All
quite
right.
straightforward. So if you're ready, all
Mhm.
right. So Kristy Song and the EPIC Questionnaire. Here we go. Question 1. One word that you love the most.
Curiosity.
One word that you dislike the most.
Fear.
If you could have a conversation with one person, fictional, non-fictional, dead or alive, who would that be?
Oh my gosh. Yoda.
Yoda. Okay, that works. What do you say to yourself in the mirror every morning?
Oh wow. Let's go.
Let's go. Favorite dish to eat? This is probably the toughest question I have asked every Southeast Asian person.
Favorite dish to eat. Are you serious? Oh my gosh, I really don't know. Favorite dish to eat. Can
Mm-hmm.
it be like the favorite meal?
Sure.
Like breakfast.
Breakfast. Okay, that works for me.
Eggs, sourdough, and avocado. There you
Egg
go. I
sourdough.
named
Wow,
one.
you are healthy. You are healthy. Yeah. If you need a sourdough recipe, let me know. My wife makes good sourdough.
Oh yes, please. I'll be contacting you right
All
after
right.
this.
Okay, we do that. Favorite travel spot or next travel spot once borders open up?
Oh, travel spot. New Zealand.
New Zealand. So I'm assuming you'll
Hmm.
be going there once borders open up again.
Yes. Yes. This one was easy. I spent the whole 2 months thinking about it.
All right then.
Yeah.
Something in the arts that you've always wanted to do, but yet to do so.
Play the cello.
Play the cello. Wow, you're a classy girl. What does retirement look like to you?
Sorry?
What does retirement look like to you?
Oh my gosh, retirement. Um, Retirement is gonna be staying at home and saying no to friends who I don't want to meet. No, just staying at home. Yeah,
Staying at home
retirement
all
is
day,
staying
that's
at home
retirement for you.
all day because I don't get time to do that at all. I'm just gonna be a homebody full time.
And I was just watching a documentary on those Japanese stay homes all the way. Somebody hasn't left his
All the
home for
way.
10 years.
Yeah. I'm gonna like stay home or so I had two retirement plans actually. I'm gonna either stay home or I'm just gonna go do my PhD and be the oldest student in class.
Nice. Okay, it's either
Yeah,
so
and
it's
horrify
either
the rest
hermit
of the
or
class.
professor hermit.
Yes.
Okay, see that. And lastly, how do you want to be remembered? What is your legacy?
Oh gosh, that's so hard. Oh, I never thought about that. I miss a company.
All right, and
Yep.
that's the end of the EPIC questionnaire. Thank you very much, Kristy Song, for sharing so much of your
Thank
story,
you.
your learnings, and also entertaining my existential crisis problems and questions.
Anytime.
Okay, thanks
Thank
so
you.
much,
You're doing
Kristy. So
really
stay on the
well.
line. And to everybody else, thanks so much for joining us again on the EPIC podcast. And we really
Thank you
hope
for having
that you enjoyed
me.
this session this week. And please join us again. If you do like this, click like, subscribe, comment, do what you need to do on YouTube. And please visit Zeppelin and Company over at Sim Lim Square. It's a wonderful, wonderful place that anybody can enjoy a good cup of coffee and a wonderful audio experience. I've been there. You should too. Okay, everybody, thanks a lot.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone. Bye.